Welcome, everybody. I'm glad you're here. Thanks so much for being here. Good morning, good day, whatever time it is. I'm glad to be with you today. Where are you connecting from? Go ahead and throw that in the chat. I'd love to know where you are connecting from before we get started. Let me pop open my chat here. Denver, Colorado. Awesome, awesome. Love the view there. Virginia, welcome. Dallas, Brooklyn, Toronto, Canada. Nice and warm up in Canada right now, I'm sure. Well, hey everybody, welcome to this session. My name is Randy Wheeler, and I am owner of Wheeler Coaching, and I'm excited for our time together as people are popping in. Hey, those of you that are popping in, go ahead and share in the chat where you're connecting from, so I can know where you're connecting from. Now, I don't know about you, but if I were to kick the person that is hardest for me to lead, I wouldn't be sitting for a week. Because every morning when I get up, I got that nice fluffy pillow and it's in the warm blanket, and I'm like, oh, I love my bed and it's warm, and my alarm goes off. And then I hit the snooze button and I like play this battle in my mind for about 60 seconds. I'm like, okay, I'll get up. I got to get up before the alarm goes off again. And eventually I crawl out of bed, put my feet on the floor, and I'm like, thank you for a new day. Shuffle over to the bathroom, and there I am, looking at that guy that's difficult to lead. How many of you in here think you're a leader? Raise your hand if you think you're a leader. All right, I got a couple. I got a couple. Okay, how many of you interact with anybody? Anybody interact with anybody? Okay, we got more confidence in that. All right, so let me suggest that everybody on the line right now, you are a leader because leadership is simply influence. And if you didn't raise your hand a second ago, then I'm assuming like you're dead and we need to call the morgue. Just saying, just saying. So but we can't lead other people if we can't lead ourselves. And what we're going to do during our time together is I'm going to unpack three principles. I may not have time to get into all three, but I'm going to unpack three ideas of how to be more effective in managing our time by managing our priorities. Now, when we get towards the end, I'm going to share with you a tool or two when it comes to AI, of a tool that I've used, but I'm also going to give you a resource during our time that you can take and use and apply right away. Sound good? Great. Those of you that just got jumped in, thanks for being here. Share in the chat where you're connecting from. We got people from all over the place. Love to hear where you're connecting from. It was September 12th, 1962. I was not there for this, but he was in front of 30,000 plus people. And he said in front of those 30,000 plus people, he said, by the end of this decade, we will put a man on the moon. And he continues and he goes, we will not do this because it is easy, but because it is hard. And if you weren't sure who I'm talking about President John F. Kennedy. And what John F. Kennedy was doing was for a whole nation, he was setting what I'd call a macro priority. So there's these three different priorities I'm going to unpack. The first one is a macro priority. Welcome those of you jumping on, share in the chat where you're connecting from. Glad you're here. And the macro priority. So above my desk, there's a number, and that number, it signifies for me uh, something that I want to accomplish. It's a number related to finances and related to impact in people's lives. If, Let me back up. Before doing what I do now, I used to be in the sports performance world. I was a strength and conditioning coach. I got the opportunity to help athletes develop their speed and their strength and everything, and I enjoyed it. I got to work with all different kinds of athletes. But after a couple of years, I was like, why am I doing this? And as I thought about it, realized that, hey, I'm helping them to develop the discipline and responsibility to accomplish a goal and become better leaders at whatever they do. Fast forward a number of years, and I went back to school, got a master's in organizational leadership, and I was like, why are you doing that? What are you going to do with that? And I'm like, I'll let you know. I'll figure that out. Fast forward a little more, I joined what's called the Maxwell Leadership Team, and I get a pathway, a practical MBA to developing leaders and leadership development. And why I do what I do now is if I can help the people on this line right now here today, help you lead yourself better, that you can lead better not only at work, but lead better at home, transform homes and transforms communities, and also help the next generation see they're not leaders just for tomorrow, but leaders today, then we're going to transform some communities and transform some lives. That's now what I've done right there. That number, what John F. Kennedy did for a nation, and what I've shared with you about what my why was. That is the first part of our macro priority, purpose. So if you know this answer right now, I'd love for, if you know this answer right now, I'd love for you to share in the chat what your purpose is. What's your why for what you're doing? Now, I have two purposes. I have the why for the business, then I have a bigger purpose for everything that I do. Now, I'm a person of faith. If that's not you, that's fine. Don't take it personally. It's me. Know God and make God known. That's my bigger, greater purpose. That's just me. And that's why I want to see lives transform. So if you know what your purpose is, your why, share it in the chat. And if you don't, that's okay because at the end, I'm going to share about an opportunity for us to dive deeper in this if you're in this community. Love that, Felicia. Thank you. Love that. Thanks for sharing that. Now, John F. Kennedy, I've talked about, but there's a couple other people I want you may be familiar with for this next part of macro priorities. He's sitting in a jail on Robben Island. Let me, God, our why is to end divorce in the world. Thank you, Casper. Thank you, Tanya. Ryan, to help individual organizations complete their mission more effectively and efficiently. Awesome. Thank you. So this man, he's sitting there and he's in this little jail on Robben Island looking across at his country. You probably know who this is. This is Nelson Mandela. And while he's in that jail, he's capturing a vision because he knows their country is torn. It's divided over racial issues. And he eventually becomes a leader of that country. And he does something unique. And maybe you've seen this movie, maybe you haven't. I really enjoyed it. It's a movie called Invictus. I don't know what's 100% true or not, where there's creative liberty. But the gist of it is Mandela took a sport of rugby and said, hey, let's unify a nation behind this and enabling to bring the nation together through sport. Then a third person, he was raised in the Great Depression era, very creative. He started to create these simple films, short animation films, and eventually he created a long animation film. And that and he created this character. You may know this character. He had big ears, long tail, kind of squeaky, Mickey Mouse. Walt Disney had a desire to use his creativity to do great things and bring this animation to the world and even create a new amusement park that we all are familiar with today as Disneyland, Disney World. All three of these men, Kennedy, Mandela, and Disney, had the second macro priority, which is vision. So you've been putting in the chat your purpose. That's the first part of macro priorities, purpose. Jill said to educate individuals about estate planning and voice is a gift to be used for different forms of communication. Thank you, Jill. And then Rod said, making an impact within my community, creating a legacy bigger than myself. So what I love about these whys are the thing that keeps us going when we want to quit. Anybody on here ever want to quit? I bet you have. I know I have. The why keeps us from quitting. The what is our vision. So the what is what do you want to accomplish? I told you about that number over my desk. That's more of my vision because it's a number that's big, it's so big I can't do it on my own. So throw in your chat if you know your what, share in your chat what your what is. So the third piece of these priorities, I had a client and I was coaching her one-on-one and and she was in a spot she's just like I'm just not sure So when you're putting your what in your chat, put what, just so I'm, in case you're coming in with your why, I want to hear your what too. So when you put your what in there, and if you don't know it, that's okay. We'll talk about that at the end. This individual, she was trying to figure out, she had so much going on her plate at work, and she's just like, I don't know, I'm not sure what to say no to. So I gave her this activity that I do, and that helped her get down to her top five values. And once she got clear on her top five values, she was able to clarify what she needed to say yes to and what she needed to say no to. Another organization that I've worked with, they were doing this retreat. And with this retreat, they wanted to talk about how to grow the business and everything, but they weren't clear on their purpose. They weren't clear quite yet. They were kind of clear on their purpose, but not quite clear on their vision or their values. So we did this values exercise. And in this values exercise, they came out with these four values, and they took those four values. You enter their office, you see them, GRIT, right there. In they're in a construction type world. They in their garage, it's GRIT. And what they did is it gave them clarity on what to hold people accountable to. One of those values would be respect. And hey, if somebody on the team is not being respectful to somebody else, it gave them a way to call them out. So the values can help an individual determine what choices to make, but it can also create clarity for your culture on your team. I was anybody I didn't catch if anybody was from Ohio that's here. But if you are, you'll feel with me. Oh, I got some what's in there. Sorry. Tanya, what the Lord wants me to do to serve the community, to help homeless, poverty, and addiction. Thank you. Ryan, through training, speaking, coaching for the challenges that each individual or organization has. Thanks, Ryan. So I, I I'm in Indiana, and there's this tournament called Big Ten tournament, and I bought tickets to the football game. I bought three, and my wife was gonna maybe go, but she gave the third one over to one of my sons. So it was me and my two younger sons. I got three boys, 20, 18, and 15. Lots of energy, lots of energy. And so we go to we're getting closer to the game, and I go on StubHub, and I'm like, whoa, I could make my ticket price back and then some. So you got a little dilemma there. It's like, okay, do I want to make my money back and then some? Or do I want to spend time with my boys and create a memory? Even though it's not the memory I wanted because my team lost, just saying. But it became an easy decision because my values were clear that I value time with my family more than I value making that money. So I know we don't have time to go into this whole exercise of your values, but I'm curious if you know what your top one or two values are. Go ahead, throw them in the chat. I'd love to see what your top one or two values are. And those one, two, three, up to five values, they're going to inform what you prioritize for day in and day out. So as you're throwing it in the chat, if you feel comfortable, I'd love to see what those values are. One of mine is faith. One of mine is family. God, family, and country. Thank you, Casper and Cheryl. So as we get clear on this first part, macro priorities. Why have I spent so much time on that? Because that's like the compass for us that keeps us pointing north. I've traveled and used the compass and going through the backwoods of, or the woods of the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and I learned how to use a compass. And you got to know where north is in order to read this map. That makes no sense. So this is giving you your compass. That when you want to quit, you know your purpose, you know your vision, you know your values. Let me see. What do we got? Ryan said integrity, community growth, action with vision, recreation. Thank you, Ryan. Now, our next key is we're going to get practical here. We're going to get practical here. Our next key, we want to think about Kennedy. He said we're going to put a man on the moon by the end of this decade. God, family, and integrity. Thank you, Tanya. Forgive me if I'm saying your name wrong. Please forgive me. And and there was something that had to come into play. In order for us to put a man on the moon, NASA had to be developed. Now, I can only imagine what a bunch of engineers were thinking when the president says, we're going to put a man on the moon. This has never been done. A bunch of engineers are thinking, there's a lot to be done. What do we do? What do we focus on? Maybe they're not that dramatic because engineers aren't like that dramatic. My dad's an engineer. He's not really dramatic. But they might have stopped and said, okay, hold on. First thing we got to do is we got to get the rocket off the ground. So propulsion. Okay, now we got it in the air, but we're gonna put humans on it, so we gotta do life support. We gotta keep them alive. And then they're like, "Oh, we get them on the rocket. We get them. They're alive on the rocket, but they gotta get back." So navigation. So what they did is they figured out, hey, here's the top three priorities to focus on to get us to our vision of where we want to go. And we're gonna get really practical here because this next part is your micro priorities. Your micro priorities are the systems you're putting into place to help you stay focused. So with NASA, what they did, I would say, is they figured out the top things that would get the most of the results. Anybody ever heard of the Pareto principle on here? Well, if you haven't heard of the Pareto principle, it's also known as the 80-20 rule. So maybe you volunteer in an organization and you notice, oh, 20% of the people get 80% of the work done. Or maybe you at a company you've worked at or the company you work at now or within your own business, you're like, yeah, 20% of the work is done or 80% of the work is done by 20% of the people. Anybody ever gone to a pitch-in where people bring a bunch of food? Anybody ever gone to one of those? Well, even that applies there sometimes. 20% of the people take 80% of the food. I might be guilty as being the 20%. Just saying. It also applies to our activities. 20% of what we do gets 80% of our results. So if you were to put in the chat right now, what are the one or two things that get you 80% of your results? What would they be? Go ahead and throw them in the chat. So for example, with NASA, 20% of the work was those three things I mentioned that will get them 80% of the results. And for me, spending time developing relationships, that's going to get me 80% of my results. Having conversations, showing up. Thank you, Casper and Cheryl. What are the one or two things that get you 80% of your results? Yeah, outreach and community. Thank you, Kashage. I think I said that right. Forgive me. Prayer, fellowship, and outreach. There we go. Thank you. So now, everybody pull out a piece of paper. Those of you that have your cameras off, go ahead and do it as well. And here's what I want you to do. I'm going to give you an uber practical tool. Okay. And in just a second, I'm going to show you a way to get access to this tool as well as another tool. So you have your to-do list. You have all kinds of things to do. Now, I want you on your piece of paper, I want you to draw a giant rectangle like so. All right, you got your rectangle. Then what you're going to do is you're going to draw a line from the top to bottom in the middle and from the left to right in the middle. Like so. Okay. Now, what I want you to do at the top right, I want you to write two words, urgent and important. Okay. So we're looking like this. And then we're going to draw right over here on this side, we're going to write the words not urgent. And down here, we're going to write the words not important. Okay, so it'll look like this. Not urgent. You may be wondering, okay, Randy, when are you going to get to this AI stuff? Don't worry, I'll get there. I'm giving you some practical tools right now. So what I want you to do is you got this grid, okay? Right here in the corner, you have important and urgent. Then you have urgent and not important. Then right here, you have not urgent, not important, and you have not urgent and important. And what you want to do is you want to fill in those boxes with one thing. Think about your to-do list for this upcoming week. What's on your to-do list? Which thing on that to-do list goes in the not important and the important or not important and urgent box, the bottom left, right? That one thing. Then you go up to the top left. What's the urgent important? So not important and urgent. That could be something that's important for somebody else, and urgent for them, their fire, but not important for you. That it could be put off for a little bit later. The important and urgent, maybe it's something pressing to a deadline, a project, a proposal, something like that that needs to be done right away. The not urgent and the important. You're here right now. You're doing one of those things. You're investing in yourself to help yourself grow. It's not urgent, but it's important. Maybe going to the gym, maybe reading a book, maybe for thinking. And then the important, not urgent, that's pretty easy. Just just using this thing and scrolling through this thing can be the not important, not urgent. All right. I wanted to give you that practical tool. I want to give you a second, take a second and think through that. But if you want to get access to that tool, I'm going to share something with you real quick. You can go here, get that free tool, just scan that or get that. And what it's going to give you is a calendar calibrator. The calendar calibrator, on that calendar calibrator, there's a helps you break down your time and see, am I being intentional with my time each and every day? So you can do that. I'll also drop that link in the chat for you real quick. Um, and then I'm going to jump into, I talked about the 80/20 rule. With the 80/20 rule, there is a tool for you or a tool that I use. I'm going to stop this share, drop that link in the chat here. There's a tool that I use that has been very helpful. That is an AI tool. This tool, uh, for me, for AI, for prioritizing, it's helping me to get to where I want to go faster. I see AI as an opportunity to have a thinking partner. A lot of what I do is you do content creation, and sometimes you get stuck with that. So there's a tool, and I'm going to share another link so you can click that second link. You can just go there on your own time. Just save it on your browser for later here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this tool and show you how I use it. So what I'll do is I'll go in. And for example, I want to make a blog post. So I can type in here and I'll type in, hey, I want to blog, and then I'll get something like this. And oh, let me do this blog super post genie. So I'll use this genie, and then I go in the top and use the easy button. There's an easy button up here, and I say, create a blog post about the benefits of building a healthy team for sports coaches. Then I press the easy button. It fills in a lot of these blanks in below. I can select my post length. I said medium. I want an inspirational. I had to fill in some other details along the way in here. It fills in my bio. I didn't fix anything in the bio. I could fix it so it's actually accurate. Uh, and then and then it asks me some other questions like where do you want them to get more information? So it's going to help me create a sales opportunity. What's the overall tone of your post? I can pick all kinds of things. I picked how to. I picked the second person perspective. And then if you're familiar with disc communication styles, I picked the D style. In my personal writing style, I threw that in there. And then I clicked this build button and it came up with this. It created for me a first draft of a blog post. That's just the blog post. And on this Genie, there's all kinds of other things. I can get headline ideas. I can get summary bullets. I can get social media feeder content. I can get meme feeder content. I can get an email promo teaser. All kinds of Twitter tweets, Instagram posts. Obviously, it's X tweets now, not Twitter. Instagram posts concluding in paragraph integrated with me, reflections, and then I could do a blog post based on that disc communication style. So how this tool helps me is it helps me get 80% of the work done in 20% of the time, going back to that micro priority. And then another tool, I'll go into Genie Chat. I just made something up. I said, okay, here's on my task list. Here's what I have to do. I have um, I have a few things that are on my task list today. Sales call, content marketing, clean the bathroom, read a book. That's why I just put it in a random order. And I said, prioritize this in the order of urgency and importance. And then what it did, can it link to other posts on your website? Yes, it could. So, for example, you go up here, where was it? Wherever that was that it had a link spot. I passed it. Where do you want them to get more information? So that's basically your call to action. What are you asking them to do? So it could be another post on your website or something like that. Absolutely. Absolutely. So this is where I was thinking. So I'm going to say prioritize in order of importance and urgent. Um, what do I, here, let me pull up my task. I'm gonna make things up. Pack, um, follow up. Well, I can't type. Follow up calls. Um, uh, sleep, read, eat. I just made it all up. Not a good list. It's not really my to-do list. It's yelling at me. I gotta refresh the page. You get the idea. You get what it does. I'm not going to take the time but what you can do is you can also say you want it to take that post you just had. You can make it more specific, and you can select the tone and all of that. It's a great tool. For me, what it does is it helps simplify. It helps me put the 80/20 rule into effect. Again, the AI does not replace the HI. AI helps me as a thinking partner. I got to use my human intelligence and put my soul and my stories into it to make it to make it me and own it. Otherwise, I'm just being lazy. I don't want to be lazy, but I want to be effective with my time. All right, I don't have a ton of time to go into my last tip, but hopefully this has been helpful so far, I hope. But my last key for us to prioritize for results is the idea that each one of us, when we get up, we have things that we do automatically. I don't know if you remember the legendary Larry Bird. Yes, I'm old. For some of you, you're like, no, you're not old. You're my age. You're good. Well, Larry Bird, he was with the Celtics, and he would get up every morning. He'd take 500 shots every morning. 500 shots every morning. And then he'd do 99 free throws in a row, and he wouldn't stop until he got 99 free throws in a row. He was developing a habit. Michael Jordan had a group of people that he brought for Breakfast Club, and they came for Breakfast Club, and they had to do this tough workout in the morning, and then they'd have a great breakfast at his place. But they couldn't have breakfast unless they worked out with the team. And that was back in 1997, 98 when they won their sixth of seven championships. He was helping his teammates develop what I call a nano priority. Nano priorities are simply habits. Now, there's so much more to go for me to unpack with that, but I don't have time to unpack all of that with you. Uh, but what we want to do is what I want you to do before I share with you a way to unpack these habits and go deeper on what we've talked about today in this community is I want you to share in the chat. What is one habit? What is one habit after we've talked about all that we've talked about, your macro priorities, which is your purpose, your vision, your values, your micro priorities, which is those strategic skills systems to help you, and your nano priorities or habits. What is one action step you'll take after we're done with this today? Share that in the chat, and I'm going to share with you one more thing, share my screen with you one more time because I want to share with you an opportunity in this community on the 29th. So get those comments in the chat coming. I want to hear what your one takeaway will be. What will be your one takeaway? Let me open the chat so I can see it. It disappears when I do share screen. What is one habit that you want to change so that you can be on priorities? Use AI tool to prioritize my to-do list. Very good. Like that. Like that. So right there in front of you, keep those actions. Come and create a mapping system of the video content for a month at a time for estate planning posts. Organize my calendar. Filter everything through adopted values. There you go. There you go. I like it. Thank you. So right there on the screen, on the 29th in this community, we're going to do a deep dive. We'll go deeper. It'll be more, even more interactive, and I'll give you some tools to help you get even more clarity on the macro priorities and changing habits and go deeper on the nano priorities. If you scan there and sign up for there, why would I have you do that? The reason for that is just because you're here today, whether you join this community or not, I'll make sure that you get the recording since you chose to be in this room and be here today with us. I'll make sure you get the recording. So all you got to do is sign up for that so I can get that to you. Now, before we jump out of here, here's one of the things I know is really important. Everything. We've all been in organizations where people don't lead well. We've been in situations where we're not leading ourselves well. Everything rises and falls on leadership. And in order for us to lead our business, to lead our mission, whatever it is we're called to do, we have to lead ourselves well. And hopefully today, these tools have helped you take a step closer to being able to lead yourself well and make a greater impact in the world with whatever it is you've been called to do. Hey, thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. I hope you got something of value. Thank you for interacting in the chat. Feel free to reach out to me in any way at randy@wheelercoachingsystems.com. And I hope you can join us in this community on the 29th. Have a fantastic rest of the day here. And thanks again for being in here. I appreciate you.